for your business. Also, today we weren't on Wednesday because here in Spain, all you people in Spain will know, it was a bank holiday. So, a bank holiday is the word we use for a, a day off, a day off for the whole country. We had a bank holiday here on Wednesday, and that is the reason why there was no stream. Today, I've got lots of different things for you. And I'm going to start by telling you what we've got lined up. So what have we got? Let's have a look here. We're going to have a look at what's going on basically quite quickly in the news. Just catch up, see what happened last night while we were sleeping. We're going to look at some English idioms. We're going to look at simple English versus business English. So how can we make our English sound a bit more professional, okay? So when we want to say normal words, we'll make it sound a bit more business-like. So we'll go through that. And then we'll have how to begin a meeting in Zoom and then explain the sequence. So this is going to be very good, not only in Zoom, but you can translate this to an in-person presentation, okay? How to start it, get going, and then how to explain how you are going to do the sequence. That's going to be very useful. Then we are going to look at, instead of using the word very, because a lot of people in English want to say, oh, it's very nice, very good, very good, but we're going to try and make this, again, more professional. All right, so we're going to look at that. And then we are finally going to look at something in relation to what I looked at before, what British people say and what British people mean. And we're going to look at that in comparison to this week. We are going to look at what Americans say and what they really mean. So we are on this side of the Atlantic, and often it can, for international people, for English-speaking people, we can misunderstand what people say. So we're going to look at today what Americans say and what they really mean. So stay in tune for that until the end of the stream. So let's get started. We're going to jump in and look at the news and see what was happening while we were asleep. So let's go in here, quickly jump in while you were sleeping, and let's see. So our first story is about, and before I forget, because I always forget to minimize myself. So I want to get this over here. I want to minimize myself down here so that you can actually see what is going on. So here we have a picture of Kim Jong-un and North Korea, Iraq, and Russia. The news of the night. So while we were in bed, what was happening? Okay, so new military maneuvers from North Korea. Pyongyang stepped up military maneuvers on its border with South Korea on Thursday, Friday. A new provocation from Kim Jong-un regime, according to Seoul. The incidents took place between Thursday night and Friday morning and involved approximately 10 North Korean fighter jets, the Washington Post said. Pyongyang had also already sent warplanes near its southern neighbor last week, but the latest flights, considered very unusual, have come even closer to Seoul airspace. A ballistic missile was also fired at sea overnight from Thursday to Friday in response to an artillery exercise by South Korea. Okay, so what's happening here? It seems North Korea, South Korea, always the situation is always going on, and North Korea is acting in response to military maneuvers by South Korea. Okay, that's generally in the news. Like I said before, I would feel quite uncomfortable living over there with that, we say, hanging over my head. It's like something is hanging over your head, is always this threat of something happening. Iraq has a new president. Thursday's election by the Iraqi parliament of Abdul Latif Rashid as country's president ends months of political stalemate, and attention now turns to the formation of the government. Here we have a nice word that we can use. Well, I'll just highlight. What I'm doing here is I'm just going to highlight this word, which is stalemate. This comes from the game of chess, and it means that nobody can win, nobody can lose. It's a stalemate, it's a draw. So political stalemate is where the two sides are not able to reach an agreement. They're stuck, there's nothing they can do. Perhaps you can use this in a business sense of negotiations reaching a stalemate. Will you continue? Will you not? Stalemate, useful word. The new president immediately appointed former Shia minister Mohammed Chia al-Sudani as prime minister and tasked him with forming a government. But his nomination was immediately rejected by religious leader Moqtas Sadr, the big winner of the 2021 legislative elections, but who had failed to form a government. Since the elections, the country's political barons have failed to agree on a new president or appoint a prime minister. Okay, perhaps this is in relation because we see up here that the minister is of this religion, Shia. So in the Muslim religion, there are, that I can think of off the top of my head, it's a good expression, off the top of my head, there are Shia, Sunni, Alawite, and Sufi. That's four, and I'm sure there are many more branches, but in these countries, this could be a problem. I was also listening to the Economist podcast the other day, The Intelligence. I recommend this podcast. A similar situation in politics there, where you have a largely Muslim north and a Christian south. And what they generally do there is the president will have a vice president from the other denomination. So if you are a Christian, your vice president will be a Muslim, and if you are a Muslim president, your vice president will be Christian. I imagine here in Iraq, excuse me, the situation is because this minister is Shia, that perhaps the Sunni or Alawite are not happy. That's a guess. I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, the main word here that you want is stalemate. Okay, fantastic word, an excellent word to use when you cannot reach an agreement. And finally, Ukraine, Moscow will evacuate the Kherson region. Russia has said that it is ready to evacuate residents from the Kherson region annexed last month in violation of international law, reports Deutsche Welle. The Kremlin's announcement comes after calls by the pro-Russian governor to evacuate the local population, a sign that Ukrainian forces are continuing their advance in the region. Ukraine is advancing and Russia is retreating. So advance, retreat. You can advance in negotiations or you can retreat in negotiations. Okay. While the Russian forces continue to chain disappointments on the ground, the European Union has issued a strong warning to Vladimir Putin. Any nuclear attack against Ukraine will bring a response. Not a nuclear response, but a military response so powerful that the Russian army will be annihilated, said the head of European diplomacy, Josep Borrell. And this is quite interesting here because when we look at the word diplomacy, generally when it's used in negotiations, it means we need to be calm, we need to be diplomatic, we need to be nice, we need diplomacy. And then this man has just said, we will annihilate your army. So that's pretty funny. Okay, that is the news of the night. I will also be looking at other news later on, but let's leave our picture up of this guy. Why not? A picture of diplomacy. Right, so what I'm going to jump into is, as I said, I'm going to look at some of the English idioms, and I have them ready to go somewhere here. Let's find them. And they are Where are they? Somewhere here. Okay, I think I've lost them. So I'm going to jump onto the next one. If I've lost something, I'm going to jump onto the next one. And that is... Okay, I'm going to use these ones, which are the sports idioms that we can relate to business. And we're going to start here, which is to keep the ball rolling. To keep the ball rolling is a fantastic, useful sports idiom that means keep the ball rolling, keep it moving, keep negotiations moving, keep your project moving, keep the ball rolling. The next one is, and I think in Spanish you will be saying, la pelota está sobre tu techo. And in English is, the ball is in your court. The ball is in your court. It is your time to make a move. If we're talking about business, if we're talking about negotiations, if we're talking about an interview or where it is time, we'll say, the ball is in your court. The ball is in your court. So I like to imagine tennis. So we're playing tennis on a tennis court and the person hits the ball to you and now it's in your part of the court. What are you going to do? It's your turn to hit the ball and it depends what direction or what you want to do with the ball. The ball is in your court. It's your move. And this is also a chess. When we talk about chess and we're playing chess, like stalemate, as we mentioned, when we also say whose turn is it, it's your move. Okay, it's your move. So you can use a chess analogy or you can use the tennis one. The ball is in your court. I know it exists in Spanish, so you just have to translate into your head. You know exactly what it means. Okay. To call the shots. To call the shots. Okay, and this means who is the person in charge? The person who calls the shots. So perhaps you want to talk to Maria because she is the one who calls the shots. If you have any ideas, if you want to change something, you need to talk to Maria. She's the one who calls the shots. She will be making the decisions. Okay, she calls the shots around here. And then let's take a basketball, or it depends on which sport you're playing, but I know it exists in basketball, and that's a timeout. Okay, and even this is the T, and when you want a timeout in negotiations, when you want a timeout, perhaps if you are having a meeting and things get heated, when it gets heated, calentados, I think would be, anyway, that's what heated is in Spanish. We mean you're having negotiations, you're having a meeting, but people are getting angry. People are exchanging, the way that they are managing this meeting is they're getting hot under the collar, it's getting heated, and we need to take a timeout, okay? Timeout in negotiations, timeout for whatever it is, but to take a timeout or have a timeout, to take timeout is just take time to think and relax, okay? And finally, I'm going to look at this one, which is related, I suppose, somewhat stereotypically to this country, which is take the bull by the horns. Here in Spain, for us in the rest of the world, anyway, it's very much a stereotype. It also exists of bullfighting, corridas de toros, and bullfighting, we say to take the bull by the horns, the cuernos, and that means to control. Like, it's not easy to do, but you need to advance, you need to make a difficult decision, just go for it and take control of the situation. To take the bull by the horns. So you need to take the bull by the horns and make a decision. Okay, so that's quite a useful one. And this is Morning Coffee with James O Reilly in association with LK Formación. And with that said, I would very much like to have some coffee, if you don't mind. Thank you very much. So let me just get some coffee going here. Black, as usual. To charge the batteries. Let me know how you guys like to take your coffee in the morning. I was talking about breakfast the other day, a typical full English breakfast, normally accompanied by tea. And I've been talking to my students about what they like here in Spain. And I also know that online on YouTube, I have a lot of people, many of the subscribers are from South America. Please let me know in the comments, what do you guys have for breakfast? What is normal for you guys when you wake up? I do remember that in Brazil, they call breakfast morning coffee. So kind of like morning coffee with James O Reilly. It's morning coffee in Brazil. Café de manhã. As far as I know, you can correct me. But let me know in the comments below, whichever country you're in, what you have for breakfast on a work day, but also on a weekend when you have more time. Because nobody has time really to make a big breakfast. We're all running out the door, toast and coffee, toast and tea. That's quite common for most people, or even biscuits, like I spoke to my students. Let me know in the comments. And another thing I wanted to talk about moving on, and we're going to change our little picture here. Second. Over to our human resources corner. This is where I'm going to be talking about how you can improve in presentations. This is one thing I want to look at. So, presentations. Where are we? Okay, so first of all, if we imagine that we are doing a presentation in online Teams, Zoom, Skype, whatever platform you're using, we'll just imagine it in this situation. But also, if you want, it definitely can be. The beginning of this will be for Zoom or Teams or whatever, WebEx, whatever you're using. But then you can imagine the presentation in person. So let me make myself a little bit bigger here. I'm moving all over the screen. 1 second. Take a second, and I'm going to expand myself here. All right, fantastic. So ways to begin a meeting in Zoom, and then followed by the sequencing. Quick thing about here, game on. I try to write something there. Game on means like, in a way, it's kind of like let's go, or also in a business context or in a sports context, again, as I was using the idioms earlier, it can be used for, okay, challenge accepted. Challenge accepted. Or let me give you an example. So let's say, for example, you have a football match between the Clásico in Spain, which is Real Madrid versus Barcelona. Barcelona are winning 2-0. We say nil for 0 in sports, especially in soccer or football, as we call it here. We'll say 2-0. Then later, it's 3-0. Okay, we think the game is over. But then Madrid score, and then they score another one. So it's 3-2 now to Barcelona. Well, you can say then, or at 3-3, game on. Okay, we have I think you say perhaps in Spanish, hay partido, or something like that. I'm pretty sure you can let me know in the comments. But now it's game on. It's like, okay, there is a game. Anybody can win this game. But sometimes in a business context, you could say game on. It's kind of like challenge accepted. So if you relate it to the Madrid-Barcelona game, perhaps where like you have negotiations, or there is another company who does something the same as you, if you imagine, like Pepsi and Coca-Cola. One of them does something and you say, game on. It's like, okay, we accept the challenge. Let's go. So game on, it's a good one. It's quite versatile, but there's a couple of examples of how you can use game on. Right. So as I said, we're going to do our Zoom, and starting with when you begin your meeting and you are then asking the people in the meeting, you will say, before we begin, can everybody mute their mics? So before we begin the meeting, can everybody mute, not moot, mute, like me and you. Mew. Can everybody, before we begin, can everybody mute their mics? Microphone. You can say microphone, but mic is the common word we use. Can everybody mute their mics? When I start my classes, I generally ask this question. I don't ask anybody to mute their mics, but I generally say, can everybody hear me okay? Can everybody hear me okay? All right. I had an issue yesterday where I did something. I hit the headphones and then the mic stopped working. I can see the students there like making the, and then as I'm troubleshooting, which is trying to find the problems, I'm eliminating the problems, I'm trying to find the problems, I'm troubleshooting, I'm asking, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay. Okay. Can everyone hear me okay? Fantastic. Excellent. Super. Okay. I find myself saying the word fantastic a lot more now. It's like we said in the last one we were talking about in Madrid, fenomenal. Let me know in the comments in YouTube if what you say in your country. I spoke I'm not sure if it's the same, but I spoke to somebody from Colombia the other day and she said, es muy chévere. But I think this is for something else. But you can let me know. What do you say for fenomenal, estupendo, which is common in your country, which is overused? In the UK, when I lived in London, fantastic was overused. And look at me now. I'm using it still. So, brilliant. I'll say brilliant. That's quite common in Dublin, where I'm from. Okay. Can everyone hear me okay? Now, I want you to take a look at the left of your screen. So is this where I want to direct you, okay? So, before we start, can everybody mute their mics? And can everybody hear me okay? Everybody hear me okay? Yeah, okay, that's excellent. And so, I want you to take a look at the left of your screen. Just in the bottom corner, not the top corner, the bottom corner where we can see human resources, right? So that's how we can begin a meeting. And now we're going to introduce how we are going to sequence the meeting. So we have a presentation or a meeting, and I'm going to let you know now what we're going to talk about. So right from the start, I can say, first, I'd like to talk about. So let's imagine we're talking about some sort of technology. Okay. First, I'd like to talk about the influence of AI on a national basis. I'll begin by, and that's going to be followed by the gerund. I'll begin by looking at how we can use AI in the office. First, I'd like to talk about AI on a national level. I'll begin by looking at how AI can be used in the office. I'll start off by, so I can say I'll begin by, or I'll start off by, and that will be followed by the gerund as well. Okay, I'll start off by looking at how AI can be used in the office. Or I could say, my first point concerns AI and its uses in the office. Or I can say, to begin with, I'm going to look at how AI can be used in the office. So we have, I'll begin by, I'll start off by, my first point concerns, or to begin with. So that's a nice way of saying how you're going to start. First, I'd like to talk about, I'll begin by, I'll start off by my first point concerns, or to begin with. So you've got many different options there. Now we're going to move on to the second point. My second point concerns, or I can say, secondly, or let's just say second, okay? Second, it's quite common to say second now. Second, I'll talk about. or next I'll touch on. This is a nice one. Next I'll touch on. It's touch to touch, but it's a way of saying I'll talk about. So next I'll touch on, or next I'll focus on, or then I'll address, or then I'll move on to. Let's go through those again. My second point concerns. Second, I'll talk about. Next, I'll touch on. Next, I'll focus on. Then I'll address. Then I'll move on to. So a couple of examples. Next, I'll touch on AI in an international setting, or then I'll move on to AI in an international setting. Next, I'll focus on AI in an international setting. So quite a few options there for you. Third, I'll talk about. So third, we could say whichever one in the second we don't use. We have touch on, focus on, address. So third, I'll move on to. Third, I'll address. Okay. So you have many for first, second, third, fourth. And finally, I'll touch on lastly, I'll focus on, and I'll end with, and then I'll end with. Okay, so in this one here, what I could say is, first, I'm going to look at some of the news of the day. Second, I'll touch on some phrases we can use in the office, some sports idioms. Then I'll move on to presentation techniques, and then I'll focus on different words we can use, and then I'll end with a Q&A session. Q&A, questions and answers. So if you have any questions or anything, I'll try and answer them at the end of this stream. Okay, so let me quickly run through one more time just to finish, because a lot of you perhaps, and I'm sure, have a meeting today, and perhaps you are the person in control. These are some nice expressions if they stay in your head. Later, you'll be able to catch this on YouTube with subtitles. If you give it later on today, you'll be able to see the captions, so you'll see the words. And also, don't forget to subscribe. Hit that subscribe button and give me some love there. Also, I can then react to your comments. Okay, so it'll be wonderful. Okay, so let me see. Where am I? I'm going to quickly go through. Before we begin, can everyone mute your mics? Okay, can everyone hear me okay? Okay, I'd like you to take a look at the left of your screen. And first I'd like to talk about, I'll start off by talking about my first point concerns. To begin with, right, my second point concerns. Second, I'll talk about. Next, I'll touch on. Next, I'll focus on. Then I'll address. Then I'll move on to. Third, I'll talk about. Third, I'll focus on. Third, I'll address. Third, I'll move on to. Finally, I'll touch on. Lastly, I'll focus on, and I'll end with a Q&A session, or I'll end with whatever. Okay, I hope that is going to be useful for you at some point today or in the future. As I said, you'll see that on the screen in YouTube later on. Okay, now when you see me right now, Monday, Wednesdays and Fridays, if you see me first thing in the morning, you're going to be focusing on your listening and pronunciation skills, and later you can read. Okay, moving on. Something I picked up online, and it says stop saying very, say these words instead, because it's very common that we use the word very. So instead of saying the word very, how about this? Okay, so we have Let me give you an example. Oh, it's very tasty. It's very tasty. It's very nice. Instead of saying very tasty, we can say it's delicious. It's delicious. Okay? Delicious. Coffee again. Oh, it's very hot. It's very hot. It's scorching. So this is something that I don't hear many of my students saying. It's not too difficult. You just need to get the idea. Scorching is like the hottest. Perhaps we use it a lot for the weather as well. But when something is super, super hot, we say, and we want to emphasize, we say it's scorching. It's scorching hot. So instead of saying it's very hot, it's scorching. The opposite, it's very cold. It's very cold. It's freezing. It's freezing. This is a lot more common when you walk into the office. You're the first. I know you guys are the first people in the office. Of course you are. And you're going in at 6 o'clock in the morning. The heating is not turned on. The heating, the calefacción, the heating is not turned on. And you go in, you say, oh, it's very cold. It's freezing. It's freezing. Much more common and a little bit different for you guys to practice with. It's freezing. The opposite, super hot. It's scorching. There was a comedy program when I was a child, and they would do, we always have the weather, well, like you guys, and I don't know why, we have the weather after the news all the time. And after the weather, they show the weather, and our weather is quite varied. A lot of rain, some clouds, a bit of sun, sometimes windy, storms, whatever. But they used to do a joke about Spain and Portugal because we always think that the weather is just really hot. So they would do a news program of the weather, and they go, okay, now over to the weather person over there. And the man would just throw on the sun and go, Scorchio. It's because we would say scorching, and they go, Scorchio. Yeah. I mean, that was the 1980s, so everything's very politically incorrect, not politically correct, and it would put on Scorchio. So scorching is the word which means roasting hot, okay? You could say also it's roasting. Roasting is what you do in an oven. You roast the meat in the oven, and often people say, wow, it's roasting outside, or it's scorching outside, okay? Roasting, scorching. Next, very funny. When something is very funny, we say hilarious. And I'm going to revisit this word, but on this side of the Atlantic, when we say hilarious, it means very funny. It was very funny. It was just hilarious when you talk about a situation that happened. Oh, very funny. Okay. Very funny. If you want to up your game, if you want to get better at English, use something different, it was hilarious. Okay, I watched a movie, the new movie from that person, and it's so funny. It's hilarious. Hilarious. Okay, and those are the words I wanted to, yeah. Let's run through them again. Very tasty, delicious, very hot, scorching, very cold, freezing, and very funny, hilarious. Try and use one of those today. It's very common that you will get used to saying the same words in English, and this is the hard part for me and for you guys, me in Spanish, you guys in English. You get comfortable, everybody understands you, so you're not using new words. Please try and use new words. I have the same problem. I know I'm making the same mistakes, and I try to look for new words, and I ask people. English natives are very helpful as far as I can see, and love helping people with new words. So if you say, how can I say this in a different way? They love to help. They really do. It's like, I remember when I lived in London, and it's a very cosmopolitan city, it's very busy. I always liked I was happy when people asked me for directions, and everybody else was the same. Always very helpful in London. The English people are very helpful, and they're very happy to share their language. So don't feel like you're putting pressure or you're annoying people asking them. They want to help. They're happy to help. And just go ahead and ask. Okay, I want to move on, and I forgot to mention this earlier, which is vocabulary for resolving disagreements. Right? Again, you're in a meeting and you have a disagreement, but you want to fix the disagreement. You want to solve it, right? You're looking for a solution, okay? You are the adult in the room, okay? You're dealing with that man or those people, and they are quite difficult. So you want a solution. Here are some expressions we can use. Vocabulary for resolving disagreements. Number 1. I think we both need to give a little. This is a sense of, it's not like give, I give, you give. Sometimes if I can explain, if something is going to fail, it's going to give. So or something is going to fall over or burst. Like, let's say I'm pumping up. I'm trying to find an explanation. It's very difficult, but let's see if this makes any sense to you. Okay, I'm pumping up a tire. A tire is pneumatico, and I'm pumping it up. And if you think it's going to blow up, you could say, I think it's going to give. It's not the best example, but you get the idea, okay? James, I think it's going to give. So I think it's going to blow up. I think it's going to give. So in this sense, when we talk about this way, is what I need to do in this negotiations is we both need to give a little. That's the sense of give here. It's like we both need to lose something here. We both need to fail a bit to make each other happy. So to make each other happy, we both need to give a bit. So I would say, okay, I think we both need to give a little. I think we both need to give a little. And that way you are being the grown-up in the conversation. It's like, I understand you're not going to accept what I want, but you need to. Another way you can say is, you need to meet me halfway. So I think we're both going to need to give a little. You need to meet me halfway. Meet me in the center. If the person is continuing to be difficult, you also might be being difficult. It's a stalemate. Remember, it's a stalemate. Nothing's happening. So in this case, we need to resolve the situation. And I will say, okay then, Laura, what do you think is a reasonable solution? So what do you think is a reasonable solution? Okay, and I'll try not to be sarcastic at the same time. But what do you think is a reasonable solution? Okay, I think we're both going to need to give a little. Or what do you think is a reasonable solution? And then this one is a bit confusing for Spanish speakers. Because we say a compromise could be to a compromise. So when we compromise in English, generally we mean make a kind of to give a little. Okay, I'm going to have to lose a bit, and you're going to have to lose a bit. Okay, so this is a compromise. Okay, I'll do this if you do this. If you do this, I'll meet halfway to compromise. Okay, I'm not going to be entirely happy. So this is what we mean by compromise in English. There are other contexts, but when we hear about this in negotiations, you're both going to need to compromise. You're both going to need to give a little. Okay, you're going to have to, not going to get exactly what you want. So a compromise could be to, let's say it's working hours. Okay, a compromise could be to work 1 week early in the mornings, and then the next week you work in the evenings. And then the other person will do, when you're doing nights, they will do the mornings. That could be a good compromise, okay? Because everybody wants to work the morning and not the evening. Compromise could be to work 1 week the mornings, and then 1 week. So that's how we use the word compromise. It is kind of, I feel, a false friend. And that is a way of solving disagreements quickly. I think we both need to give a little. What do you think is a reasonable solution? And finally, a compromise could be to, or we need to compromise. Okay, so excellent. Now I want to move on to something that I spoke about before, which was Americans. We spoke about what British people say and what they mean. Very indirect. Well, it turns out that Americans also can be indirect, and let's have a look at what they say and what they mean. So I'm going to minimize myself here so we can have a look at this. Let's jump into it. What Americans say and what they mean. All right. So if you're having a conversation with an American, if you're doing business with an American, let's have a look. And just make sure that you guys can see this. Okay. Because I want to make sure that you can see it. All right, this is the best I can do, and I'll double check. Okay, so just remember, James O Reilly, morning coffee with me, and that will be, we're doing this on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 8:30 to 9:30, and I'm going to take away this. Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. You also can participate in the comments. Leave me some comments. I'll get back to you. You can participate in YouTube, subscribe, like, all that kind of thing. Let's get into it. Americans, what do they say? What do they mean? So when an American says, "How are you?" they mean, I've already said hello, but this is just an extension of that greeting. So it's like, hey, hi, hello, how are you? This is just an extension of the greeting. Acceptable responses for this question include great, and you? Or I'm good, how are you? And literally nothing else, okay? Do not, under any circumstances, do not tell people how you really are. In Spain, it's exactly the same. You're saying, hola, ¿qué tal? The ¿qué tal? Or ¿cómo estás? Is an extension. So it's hi, how are you? Hey, how are you? And it's just an extension. Hola, ¿qué tal? Right. Now, as you can see here, and I'm going to highlight it. Great. And you? I'm good. How are you? You can see here, it's not so common. I certainly feel this way. It's not so common to say fine. I think this is something that you have learned, and okay, if you can continue using it, it's fine. Generally, when I say fine, I mean there is no problem. It's fine to use I'm fine. I'm saying there's no problem saying I'm fine. Generally, if I fall off my chair, oh James, how are you? Are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. So would you, James, we're going to have to compromise. You work 1 week of the mornings and then 1 week of the evenings. What do you think? Okay, that's fine with me. So generally, fine means no problem. I don't have a problem with that, or there is no problem here. But you can continue using it, of course. It is used a lot by international people. They teach you this in school, perhaps because saying good, great, and many countries have different things. Try saying something different as well. Great. I'm great. You? I'm good. I'm good, thanks. Yeah, how are you? Okay, so that's an extension of what I want to talk about. So exactly like hola, ¿qué tal? And in English, hey, how are you? I don't want to know how you are. I don't need to, my dog died, and I don't care. Hey, how are you? And you can reply exactly the same way. Hey, how's it going? Okay. Right. When an American says, I'm doing great, they mean I'm doing fine. Okay, so we're going to take it down. I'm doing okay. I'm doing fine. Okay, so don't take it literally. Hey, how's it going? I'm doing great. It means I'm okay. There's no problem. I'm doing fine. But not, it seems, fantastic. Not great. When an American says I'm doing fine, they mean I'm not fine. All right. So, in this case, we can say doing fine. Yeah, I'm doing fine. This kind of can be read and into I'm not doing fine. Okay. I don't know if I should expand on this. If we just leave it as it is, and when they say I'm doing fine, you need to read it. It's like, for example, when you say in Spanish, I'm a foreign person, and somebody says to me, and I say, my work colleague, hola, ¿qué tal? And they say, bueno, regular. Now I can think, okay, regular. Regular means normal in English. It's a regular, just a regular phone. It's a regular, it means normal. So am I going to, when I understand Spanish, am I going to think normal? No, regular is not great. So when someone says, I'm doing fine, you can read into this, I'm not okay. If you, it is interesting that I was saying this before about people don't generally say fine. I think it's because of this. Because when people say I'm doing fine, it means there's no problem. It kind of means there is a problem. And then you can, if you are comfortable with the person, you could even say, "Oh, what happened?" Yeah, I'm fine. I'm doing fine. It's like, okay, what happened? Are you sure? Are you sure? Would you like to talk about it? Well, my dog's not very well. I had to take her to the vet yesterday. So interesting, that one. When you say fine, native people can misread it, but it's becoming very, very popular now. So with the international community, absolutely, people saying fine is fine. Okay, I'm tired of this word. Let's move on. Okay, when an American says, I'm doing okay, they mean, I'm not well and actually might be dying. Please alert the proper emergency services. So I'm doing okay. Again, I'm doing fine. Right, so that's interesting. We need to read into this. Let me know, any of you who do work with people from the United States. And also, if they say these things to you, then it might mean there's a bit of confidence between you, or that they like you as a person and they are allowing you to ask, oh. So if someone says, I'm okay, I'm doing okay, you can ask, say, oh, what happened? Or I would to a colleague that, okay, did anything happen? Or do you want to talk? Do you want to talk about it? All right, this is a great one. When an American says, yeah, no, they mean no. So, would you? We need to do something in the office. Would you be available to work the night shift, turno shift, for next month? Yeah, no. Yeah is the kind of part of the conversation where you say, yeah, I understand what you said. My answer is no. Yeah, no. And when an American says no, yeah, that means yes. Yeah, I don't know how to explain this, but it's true. Yeah, maybe you say the same. Sí, no, no, sí. Maybe it's the same in Spanish. I'm not sure, but yeah, no, no, yeah. Okay, I try and think of an example for that one. It reminded me when quite complicated in English. If you ask a negative question or you make a negative statement, so normally we'll answer with yes and no to a direct question, but sometimes when you answer no, it's an agreement. So you can say, you don't work on Saturdays, do you? No. What does that mean? No, I'm saying no to your question, or I am saying no, I don't work on Saturdays. Well, what we normally do is I'm agreeing with you and I'm saying, no. Like, you don't work on Saturdays, do you? No, I don't. I don't work on Saturdays. And this can even be confusing for English speaking people. I don't know if it's the same in your language. Let me know in the comments. But this can be quite confusing. And normally we need to clarify. So, but often if you say something like, you don't work on Saturdays, do you? When I say no, that means I am reinforcing I agree with you. And that reminded me when I was looking at this list. Okay. When an American says it's amazing, they mean it's pretty good. You may also use this translation for the following. Awesome, fabulous, incredible, spectacular. Awesome, it's amazing. It's pretty good. It's amazing. Again, it's more emphasized. In the United States, it's acceptable to emphasize things a bit more than in the UK. It's amazing. It means it's pretty good. And I have noticed this when I listen to podcasts from the States. They do tend to emphasize things a bit more. Like here, when an American says it was hilarious, and I mentioned this before, they mean it was mildly amusing. So I have noticed, I listen to podcasts and they talk about something and they see something, oh, it was hilarious. And I get to the point where I'm thinking, oh, they don't mean hilarious the way I say hilarious. Because for me, on this side of the Atlantic, here in Europe, when I say something is hilarious, I mean it was really funny. But in the United States, it means it was mildly, mild means not so much, amusing. So we have amusing and funny. Hilarious, okay? Amusing, funny, hilarious. So when something is not funny, this is something, again, reminds me, a lot of Spanish people tend to say, when they want to say something was good, or you did something, you did an activity and it was really good, or I had a great time. Often you will see, I hear my students saying, it was very funny. But what you really want to say was, it was really good. It was really good. Funny is ha ha ha. Okay? That is just something that is quite common. When an American says it was literally insane, they mean it was slightly surprising. Please note that in almost all cases, literally can be translated as figuratively. Literally is a common buzzword that we use in English when you want to put emphasis on something, when you want to exaggerate a bit. If you go and you have a meal and you're sharing and one person eats more than the other people, you could say he literally ate all the food. And that's just an example. Literally is used to emphasize. So when we say it was literally insane. Again, Americans are more exaggerating than over here, and they're saying it was slightly surprising. Again, on my podcasts, I hear this. They talk about someone. I say, oh, and then you mention somebody called Karen. You go, oh, Karen, yeah, I love her. Karen, I love her. It means, okay, Karen, yeah, I tolerate her. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so this is more like the British. It's the opposite. Oh, yeah, you know Karen from like marketing. Oh, yeah, Karen, I love her, yeah. Okay, Karen, I tolerate her. I don't really like Karen. This is good. When Americans say, oh, Bill, yeah, he's great. That means I do not care for Bill. Okay. Yeah, Bill from finance. Oh, yeah, Bill. Yeah, he's great. Yeah, I know Bill. Yeah. I don't care about Bill. Okay, this is good. Typical. More direct here in Spain. Let me know, you guys in South America, if you would use the same. Are you more direct or indirect? Definitely more direct here in Spain, I feel. When an American says, that's interesting, they mean, I don't like it and I'm about to pitch another option to you. Okay. That is the same as the British. If we're talking about business, it's the same. That's interesting. Yeah, not interested. It's that's a bit crazy. In America, in the United States, it seems. When a person says my friend, they mean a person I know. So my friend, it doesn't actually mean my friend. It means somebody I know. When an American says my best friend, they mean a person I know who I actually enjoy spending time with. Okay, my best friend. So it's not exactly their best friend, but it's someone that they know and they do like, but it's not their best friend. That's interesting because I listen to podcasts, and when the person said, I have noticed over time, I've been listening for a few years, the guy always says, he never says, I know this guy. He'll say, my friend. And I think, wow, this guy has so many friends, but he really means somebody I know. So when Americans say definitely, they mean probably. I got to finish this out. When they mean definitely, they mean probably. Okay, so listen, we're doing this on the weekend. If you want that, yeah, definitely. It means probably. That would be true. I can get the sense from this. As an Irish person, we are exactly the same. It's like, absolutely, yeah, definitely. Definitely is just like, yeah, it sounds good. It's definitely a good idea. It's absolutely a great idea, but we'll see. Probably. I'm not going to commit. Even though definitely sounds like you're committing, it's probably. When an American says, let's hang out sometime, goodbye, I'll never see you again. Okay. So if I'm introduced to someone or I see someone that I don't see so often, it's been a long time, I bump into them on the street. Maybe I was in university with that person. Maybe listen, anyway, it was great to see you, okay, yeah, like definitely let's hang out sometime. It's been too long. That means, yeah, like, even if I have your number, I'm not going to contact you. I haven't been in contact. Yeah, I'm not going to see you again. Let's hang out sometime. Let's get coffee sometime. Goodbye. I actually want to see you again. Okay. So when someone says, let's get coffee sometime, yeah, just a slight different change, but it's let's hang out sometime. Let's get coffee sometime. It's a bit more serious. Let's meet and have a chat. I would like to see you again. When an American says, let's get dinner sometime, again, this is the next level. Let's hang out sometime. I'm not going to see you. Let's get coffee sometime. I would like to see you. And let's get dinner. You are one of my dearest friends, and I will actually see you again. Time. Give me a second. This means I need 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, just give me a second. I need 5 to, give me a second. Give me a minute. Roughly 30 minutes to an hour. It took forever. This means it took more than an hour. They're exaggerating, of course. Later, you could be talking, okay, we'll talk about this later. We'll see later. Likely, never. In relation to driving, a short drive is anywhere from 30 minutes to a 4-hour drive. So my my work is a short drive from my house, 30 minutes. A long drive, very long, Delaware to San Diego. I don't know exactly, but I assume that's a very long. Okay, it's hot out. Well, this is all relative to where you live. And 1 billion is a large number, maybe more than 100. Okay, so let me just quickly jump into the... let me bring them back up there. Lots of different ones there. That is from BuzzFeed. I thought that would be quite interesting. And I'm going to quickly just jump in here to see. And like I mentioned in the last one, I will be getting people on later and I'd love to get some of you guys on from different departments, different areas of your work, find out like interview questions and so on. And that kind of thing. That was related to that. Going to be getting people on. And then the other thing was, again, you can go over to YouTube later if you want to get the subtitles and make it more clear for you. Okay, fantastic. It's been great talking to you this morning. And I shall be on again next Monday, 8:30 to 9:30. And it's been great talking to you. What can I say? Have a great weekend, and I will talk to you Monday morning. Okay, all the best. See you later. Bye bye.